Hey, how's it going, everybody? Circus here, doing another deck analysis video. This week, we're going to do Blue Eyes. I wanted to wait a couple weeks after the box came out so we can kind of see how the deck's performing. Today, joining me is Whilipino. He's a two-time MCS champion. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Circus. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. Like I said, we wanted to wait a couple weeks after the box came out just to see how it's doing because a lot of times there's a lot of hype around a box about a deck. It's nice to see the deck comes out, how it's been doing, and then kind of get people's opinions on it. So, why don't you kind of go over what we got here on the screen? This is a deck that won the Meta Weekly, right?
Yes, this is Jason's list.
Okay, why don't you go over it a little bit?
Okay, so one thing about Blue Eyes is like it's a new deck, but it's also like an old deck that's just having additions to it.
Okay.
Like, if you've been playing the game for a few months, that you'll know that the Blue Eyes with White Stone of Ancients has been a thing for a while. Cosmo Brain, like these are all like old cards in the deck. I just want to talk about like the new cards to the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first important one being Sage. So what that does is on summon, it lets you add a level 1 light tuner from your deck to your hand, except itself. And it also, when it's in your hand, you can discard it to target an effect monster you control, send it to the graveyard, and then you can summon a Blue Eyes from your deck.
Okay, so what would you do uh, for a combo there?
So uh, I know it's not being played in this version of the deck right now. One combo we had with Sage is with Glow Up Bulb. Like it's not in the deck right now. It was an older version of the deck, but you can go Glow Up Bulb, send Sage, a Global Bulb. It gets off summon Blue Eyes, Global effects, summon itself back, make a Spirit Dragon.
Okay.
That's like one combo, and the other combo with Sage, it technically doesn't need a Sage, but the other card I wanted to get to was actually Maiden with Eyes of Blue.
Okay.
So what this card does is when it's targeted for an attack or when it's targeted, basically when it's targeted for an attack or when it's targeted with a card effect, um, you can summon a Blue Eyes from your hand deck or graveyard. And that combos really nicely with Mausoleum of White. So what Mausoleum White is a little bit of an older card, but wasn't played back in the day, so I'll just go over it really quick. During your main phase, you can normal summon an additional level 1 light tuner in addition to your normal summon. And you can also target one face-up card you control, and then you send a normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard to have it gain attack. And that's important because Mausoleum and Maiden is a 2-card combo, which ends in turn turn 1 Blue Eye Spirit Dragon.
Okay.
And it's the same thing where like if you're looking at the list, there's only like one Maiden, and you're like, oh, how is this a reliable combo? Where the Sages also count as copy of Maidens, so you can go Mausoleum, extra normal summon Sage, search the Maiden, summon the Maiden, target the Maiden, and then you'll end with Maiden and then a Spirit Dragon if you have Sage.
Okay. And Spirit Dragon, that's the thing you want to get out on the field as quick as possible, right?
Yes, this is the new boss monster for the deck.
Hmm.
This thing has 3 effects. Like anything with 3 effects in Yu-Gi-Oh must be good. So,
Right. The
um,
longer the card text, the better the card.
exactly.
Right.
Um, its first effect is probably like the least relevant effect. Neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters at the same time.
Hmm.
So that stuff stops stuff like the Ritual Beasts, fusion monsters when they try to tag out to separate monsters, and it also stops the level 3 Shiranui tuner. The name is slipping from my head right now.
Right.
I
Right.
think
With the
it's
level three. Yeah.
the level 3. It doesn't stop navigation. That's an important thing because they are summoned at separate times. So
So it only stops if they come out at the same time.
at the exact same time, yes.
Okay.
And then the other effects are once per turn during either player's turn, when a card is activated in the graveyard, you can negate the activation. So that's very relevant right now. That's a really strong effect because it's good. It can stop invocation from being added back to the hand. It can stop.
Oh. Okay.
Um, it can stop the Crystron effects. It can stop opponents' White Stone of Asians. It There's a lot of effects that activate in the grave. So like this is a very
Right.
strong effect to have.
Okay.
And the last effect that is when during either player's turn, if you can tribute the synchro summon card to summon light Dragon Synchro from your extra deck, but it's destroyed during the end phase. But having it being destroyed during the end phase is kind of mitigated if you just summon Azurize.
Okay, and what does that do?
So this is like an older card to the deck, but it wasn't as easy to abuse. But when it's if it's special summon, dragon type monsters you currently control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to note is that this effect activates. So when you summon Azurize, your opponent will get to respond with something like Treacherous or something in response to your Azurize. So just make sure you play around that.
All right, so that prevents everything from being destroyed then.
Destroyed or targeted, yeah.
Okay. All right, so you're talking a little bit. What are some other pros of the deck?
So this deck is very good at playing around back row or playing through back row.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, like Element Sabers it tends to be a very favorable matchup for you because that's just back row of the deck. As well as Dark Magician can be favored. It really depends. It's kind of a coin flippy matchup, but like you're likely to win more going second than they are. Like being able to, and also just shutting down a lot of the grave decks is also important. Like Crystron, if you can set up Spirit Dragon versus Crystron or Thunder Dragon, then it's like very strong there.
So before we started recording, you said there was a combo with Regeki Break and the Whitestone that'll help take out back row.
Oh yeah, so let's say you're playing against like Dark Magician, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have Regeki Break and the Whitestone Ancients in hand. They go circle, you let that through because then they only have 2 spots to set back row to. They go set 2, you go end phase Regeki Break 1 of the unknown back row, and then Whitestone of Ancients will summon Dragon Spirit of White to banish the other back row.
Okay, so you can just wipe out their back row then.
Yeah, and Dark Magician without back row is not a deck.
Right. Okay. So this deck can deal with back row. It's good at getting big beaters out on the field. What's some of the weaknesses?
So in the deck itself, you are playing Blue Eyes, so you are playing brick monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever you draw Dragon Spirit of White or you draw Blue Eyes, like seeing those in multiples kind of sucks.
Right. Yeah.
And you have some like poor matchups in the like in general, especially if you're just like playing on ladder. Like some cards just tend to wall this deck off. Like if you can summon a monster that's hard to kill
Mm-hmm.
and is bigger than a Blue Eyes, it's going to be annoying for this deck. Like some examples would be Shiranui Sun Saga. That's really annoying to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
The Luna Light of the untargetable comes out like at 36, 38.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Big monster. Yep.
big monster untargetable. Like those tend to be pretty annoying for this deck to deal with.
Okay.
It's but other than that, like besides the possible breaking and just some poor matchups, like
Mm-hmm.
I think this deck overall, like I think this deck has a lot of like good matchups in the meta right now. So
You were saying Element Sabers are a really good matchup.
Element Sabers are good, Crystons are good, Thunder Dragon's pretty good. Like anything that relies on the graveyard's like pretty good. Dark Magician is I think like 55-45 in favor of like Blue Eyes. Is there anything else that's meta right now that I'm forgetting?
And then you said Luna Lights were a tough matchup. Shiranuis can be tough.
Luna and Shiranui are tough, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Shiranui's arguable. I think Shiranui, if they're playing level augmentation, is annoying. But if they're not, if they're playing like a different skill, it's like it's not that bad because they're not setting up Sun Saga really fast.
Okay. So I would think if you're a new player coming into the game, you probably wouldn't want to try to invest in this deck because it looks like there's a lot of URs and SRs in there. But let's say you already have most of the deck built. You're just missing some stuff from the new box. Would you go in after it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you have the stuff from the previous boxes already,
Mm-hmm.
then I'd say go for it.
Okay.
If you're a brand new player, don't do it. This is too much.
Okay.
Go for it. If you want a top deck, go for something cheaper then.
All right. Okay. Well, it sounds like the deck's been having some success lately. Why don't we check back in a couple weeks, see how it's doing?
All right, sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me. If you guys like what you heard, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Twitch. Join our Discord. Oh god, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Just check in the description below. There will be links for everything. And thanks again, Whilipino, for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, take it easy. Hey, oh no, that was, I was about to say hey YouTube, but that's like the lamest thing to say, isn't it? Hey YouTube.